Avatar on 4K Blu-ray. We're going to go over the movie, the 4K disc, and some stuff I noticed. First and foremost, there's something about this release and actually the prior Blu-ray release that hardly any movie, if any other movie, has ever done before, and that is this. If you look in the audio, look at this bottom one. It's got a family audio track. So it's still 5.1 Dolby Digital, so it still has like good sounding surround sound, but all the swear words have been dubbed over by the original actors. And I actually think that's really, really cool because you still have the original audio. So they didn't like censor it or anything, but if you have people you want to show it to that you don't want to hear all the swearing, you have that option. I don't know why all movies don't do this or include the airplane cut for that matter. Anyway, that is cool, and I applaud James Cameron for doing it. I hope more people will follow. The sequel actually did it also. But for my review, I watched it in Dolby Atmos, and I felt like I had to constantly turn it up for it to sound good. But it did sound good, and it was very immersive, but I had to turn it well above where I have other movies at. So I saw this movie back in 2009 when it came out, and I thought it was visually very impressive, but was not very impressed story-wise. And I just never had a desire to revisit it all the way until now. But there's a few reasons why I wanted to come back. One of which is the 4K release. Another is there's a sequel. So I was like, yeah, let's go watch it again. And another is I met somebody who had actually seen this movie literally like 2,000 times, like more than that. And so I asked this person over and over, like what they saw in the movie and why they liked it so much, and just why they did that. And so it was just fascinating. And so that was kind of the question that I was asking myself while I was watching this movie this time. Just like, why do so many people like this movie? So I mentioned one of the reasons I wanted to go watch it again was because of the 4K disc. Because I do like to support companies doing 4K discs, especially when they have the family movie track. I know you might think that's cheesy, but I think that's cool and I want to support that. But big, huge movies or movies that a lot of people want on 4K or significant movies or milestone movies, technological achievement movies, I want to support the 4K format. So that was another reason I wanted to try it. But look at this. Look at this shot. It's kind of zooming down the ship here, and the first glimpse you get of the planet is through the reflection on the solar panels. That's so cool.
I figured I'd be going there.
And then this shot is like breathtaking. So you have the gas giant in the background, and then Pandora, and then there's a little tiny moon over here, which actually, I just realized this. I wasn't standing this close to it while I was watching the movie. But look at this. See if I can get it closer. Do you see all the detail on that little planet there? See if we can get it even closer. There we go. Look at all the detail on that thing. I think that planet might actually be, I don't know, class M. I don't know how they're just the Star Trek way. Like habitable by humans also. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is an incredible shot. And I think that is why a lot of people like this movie, is just because visually it's so beautiful. I remember when it came out, that's what everyone was freaking out about. They were freaking out about the 3D and the graphics and everything. So maybe that's a large reason why. I love this gas effect when they open up the doors and you can see the air like wiggling. Look at this. Kind of like when you see gasoline and you can see the vapors. Look at that. Oh, it's so cool. I think it really gives you the message that it's not breathable. All right, so speaking of the quality of the 4K image, so this is like an upconverted movie because it was not filmed in 4K. However, it looks really, really good. And I think the HDR, the high dynamic range with the colors, really added to it. And I think that's kind of the big selling point, especially during scenes with bioluminescence, which I'll show a little bit later. It's not going to do it justice on here, but just to give you an idea of scenes that stand out with HDR. So I think this still absolutely could be one of the best 4Ks of the year. But you can definitely see the aging CG at this point. You really can. Like when this truck drives by, you can totally tell that it's just completely fake. By the way, I love that there's all the arrows stuck in there. I think that's really cool, kind of clever exposition.
You're not in Kansas anymore.
But I think the CG is starting to show its age, and you can start to see it. It's starting to look like a really, really nice video game turned up to max graphics. It looks very cartoony and video gamey. However, that didn't detract from the story experience. Speaking of story, the story in this movie reminds me of at least 3 different other stories. One, Dances with Wolves, where you've got a guy going to live with the natives and starting to see their point of view. 2, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I freaking love this book, by the way. Not so much Apocalypse Now type in this movie, but still the idea of somebody going native. That's kind of where that saying came from. So that story, and then it absolutely reminds me of Fern Gully, because you've got a little human that gets shrunken and has the experience with the Fern Gully people and learns about how to save the trees, and that is extremely similar to the plot here. So the one spicy difference between this movie and all those stories is that Jake Sully can actually comes back to like his people at the end of every day instead of just staying with the natives. So he comes back with his people at the end of every day. So he is getting more and more immersed, and that's actually one of my favorite lines in the movie, when he starts talking about how nothing makes sense anymore, and it feels like he's dreaming when he's in the real world in his real body, and his realities start blurring. But that's like the spicy derivative James Cameron difference, is he's like, look, it's not a copy of those stories because he's in this avatar body, and it's like, okay, all right, that's fair. Speaking of this shot here, boop, I really like this. So this is his little recordings that they're making him do to kind of document everything. So this is the date. So May 19th, 2154. And any movie that can just very cleverly deliver exposition to you to where you can find out what year it is or whatever, I think that's cool. So we find out it's the year 2154. And he said he grew up hearing about Pandora, so they've known about it for a long time. But it's cool. We know what the year is. They didn't have to put it up on the screen like future 2154. Like it's in this tiny little date box. You can notice it. So I think movies that subtly get you into the world do a good job. So like Star Wars, for example, this and the first Star Wars movie. So now I've been talking a lot about this family language track, and so here is an example. So she is going to say something. This is the normal theatrical audio.
But now I see that you're intentionally screwing me.
Okay, now we're going to hear the family language track of that line. Okay, here we go. I'm going to zoom in on her mouth so you can see what we're dealing with here.
But now I see that you're intentionally thwarting me.
Grace, you know,
See that?
I enjoy.
So it's actually not bad, and the words that they chose actually are very fitting. Like there's a part later when Sully's flying the little dragon things, and he like swears a lot when he's almost hitting the rocks, and he's like, and he says a swear word. In the family language version, he's just like, as he's dodging them, he just is like, and they just don't have the swear word. And so it works just as well. Like there's no story lost out on it. So I know I've been talking a lot about it, but it's a huge deal. Not a lot of movies do this. And so I applaud them for it, and they did a good job of it. So the dubbing choice was good words instead of like the weird TV edits of yesteryear where it would just be really dumb sounding words. So anyway, they did a good job. All right, so we're going to talk about one of the most awkward parts of this entire movie and the entire Avatar concept is the little ponytail thing they have with that weird little connector thing that they hook onto stuff. They hook it onto animals. They hook it onto each other when they're doing things. They hook it onto like the prayer tree. Like, what in the world? I don't know about that thing. It makes me so uncomfortable anytime anyone does anything with it. And this line, very early in the movie, does not help with that. So listen to what, I can't remember her name, Sigourney Weaver's character, what she says to Sully right here. Listen to this.
Don't play with that. You'll go blind.
That's kind of freaky.
Come on.
You hear that? She said, don't play with that. You'll go blind, while he's looking at the little weird sensor thing that they just hook onto everything. And the reason that makes the rest of the movie so awkward with the little hair connecty things is because that line, don't play with it, you'll go blind. Like back in the day, that's something that people would tell young boys, is that if they play with it, they'll go blind. And so then I know she's just being silly, like she's just being like cheeky and stuff. But at the same time, like, why would she make that comparison if that thing doesn't have just a little bit of that function? Which makes it so weird when they connect it to other things like animals and trees and other stuff. So I know that it's like alien and it's a different concept, but it's every time they whip those things out, it makes me feel awkward. Maybe it's supposed to. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, which I've been accused of doing.
No, it's weird.
Yeah.
I told you it was weird. I told you I didn't like it.
Maybe it's just like a USB port, and they're just like, we're transferring data in intimate settings, and then later the next day doing it with an animal. Oh, it's weird every time. All right, this movie actually makes use of a camera technique that I think George Lucas invented with Star Wars Episode 2, because I had never seen it in any movie before that, and I've seen it in a ton of movies after that. I call it the George Lucas zoom. I don't know what else it is, but it is this thing where you kind of have a long shot, and then suddenly you zoom in really, really quick, and it's like a digital zoom. And I was counting at first how many times they did it in this movie, but I'm just going to say that it's 10 or more. This one I'm going to show you is kind of a smaller George Lucas zoom, but you can get the idea where it's really aggressive, quick zoom. The one George Lucas did was a lot bigger in Episode 2, but see if you have seen this in a whole bunch of movies since then. Okay, right here. It's going to zoom in real quick. Right there. See that? And then it's going to do it on this animal here in a second, too. Okay, right here. See that? So it's just like a really aggressive, like artificial zoom. And maybe you could correct me, but I think that's a George Lucas thing that he started in Episode 2. So like I said, I'm constantly wondering, why do so many people like this movie? And I think part of it is Pandora itself and all the weird and beautiful life on it. And I think the playfulness that the character Sully has, I think people really connect to that, and it just makes them want to watch this movie. I don't know. You look at these weird little plant things, and he just pokes them. So I think it's just stuff like this that endears people to this movie. I think so. I mean, like, why do you like this movie? Okay, like I said earlier, it's definitely not going to show up on here, but a huge part of why the 4K looks so good is all the bioluminescence parts with the HDR. So when I say that, I'm talking about parts like this. This just looks like, this is like jaw-dropping in 4K HDR on a calibrated TV. I was pretty much had my mouth open on this part. So even though it's like, it's upconverted to 4K, it still looks, really, really good. So it's enjoyable to look at. So maybe again, that's a reason people like this movie. All right. I'm not gonna lie, this movie's actually really, it's really distracting with all the blue people where they're not wearing very much clothes, and they have their like little shirts and necklace and hair thing is like just barely strategically like staying right there, and it's really distracting. Look at this guy getting in my business, getting in my filming spot. He's like, oh, you're filming right here? I'm just going to lay right here and stretch all the way out. Is that what you're going to do? You little jerk. So James Cameron, I guess, just straight up ripped off Steven Spielberg in Jurassic Park, because listen to this little weird six-legged cow horse thing. You hear that? What does that sound like? It's a velociraptor. It's the exact same. It's the exact same sound effect. Oh no, don't do it. Okay, I can't show that. It's too awkward. But it's the exact same sound as a velociraptor from Jurassic Park. So I don't know what that's about, but I mean, that seriously sounds exactly the same. Okay, so this flying part is actually really freaking cool, and it must have been amazing in 3D in a theater. It kind of reminds me of the How to Train Your Dragon flying part in the first movie, but it's like tons of fun watching it. And this is the classic Avatar shot that's in all the commercials. Look at that. That's pretty awesome, and it looks great in 4K HDR. So this line right here is the one that I was mentioning earlier that's kind of a huge deal in the movie where, well, let's just hear it.
Everything is backwards now. Like out there is the true world, and in here is the dream.
So thus he's getting fully immersed, and he's confused, and he doesn't... he's getting more and more attached out there, and he's learning their mythology, and he's learning their language, and so it makes sense that he would start getting conflicted with his mission. Speaking of conflicted, though, I feel like this movie is kind of at war with itself, because the movie itself has arguably an anti-colonialism message and an anti-capitalism message, or at least maybe anti the worst parts of those things message. But this movie is like such a product of both of those things, where it made $2 billion and it cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make it. So it's like this money making machine, but its message is like so earthy and so pure, but it has, where it came from is those things it's preaching against. So it's kind of odd. I'm sitting here watching this movie, and it's a beautiful movie, and it's a technical masterpiece. But I'm sitting there like, wait, so they don't like this, but it cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but then it made billions of dollars. So it's like this movie's like a capitalist machine. Anyway, so I guess okay. I think what I said at first was right, where this movie is anti the worst parts of capitalism and anti the worst parts of colonialism, which is just exploitation without any symbiosis. So, okay. So but I don't see anywhere in this movie that talks about how you can have both, where that like the humans and the Na'vi could get along. Is there? I guess there's a part of that, because you have the Sigourney Weaver character who's like friends with them, and even though they've been welcomed to their tribe, they still have friendly relations. So anyway, I do feel like there's a little bit of like the movie itself has cognitive dissonance with how it came to be. All right, listen to this big lie from the Colonel coming up here.
I'll do with minimal casualties to the indigenous. I'll drive them out with gas first.
And then listen to this part right here.
It'll be humane. More or less.
He's basically just asking for full permission to do whatever he wants. And he's like, yeah, it'll be humane. It's like, we're just going to shoot missiles at them. That's humane. All right, so I think I react the same way in this movie to all the destruction as I did with at the end of Rogue One when Darth Vader's slashing up all those rebel troopers. So I love all the like mech warriors and the helicopters and the machine guns and the robots and the missiles and like all the guys running around in baggy like cargo pants and like their ripped off sleeves and their big knives and everything. Like I love all that stuff. But with all the destruction, which again, I love watching all the destruction, I'm like, but it's like the bad guys doing it. So it's just like where Darth Vader was slashing up all those guys. I was like, yeah, this is really cool. And then it's like, oh, but this is sad because all the good guys are getting killed. So it's kind of the same in this movie, where I just want to have like toys of all the human stuff, like all their ships and everything. But they're doing bad stuff. So it's kind of, it's a little weird. But listen to this thing that the Colonel says. Has them switch missiles. So they did gas, then incendiary. Now they're going to do this.
Switch missiles. In the HE at the base of the west columns. This way!
So he said, give me HE to the base of the west columns. And I think that's really cool and like authentic militariness. I would know something about that. And HE stands for high explosives. And so the high explosives I'm used to dealing with are the 95-pound artillery bullets, basically. So that's what I'm used to dealing with HE. So when I heard it in this movie, I was like, yay, I know about HE. So Yeah, it's just cool little detail. There's so many little details, even on the so on the cool planet, like glowing bugs and stuff, whatever. But on the military side, there's actually a lot of very authentic stuff. So it felt very real. Anyway, I like to hear people talk about HE. Speaking of HE, I would say this is my favorite part in the whole movie, which is a little bit shallow, but c'est la vie. Okay, my favorite part is all the HE missiles firing, and when they hit, every one of them has its own little shockwave, and each little shockwave that comes out of a missile, I feel it in my heart. I feel like I gain like 5 minutes of life from looking at all these little shockwaves. And I've never seen a movie at this point, at 2009, no movie had ever come close to doing such cool explosions and shockwaves as in this scene right here. Yes! Oh, that's so cool. Oh my gosh. Oh, I mean, it sucks that like the good guys are all getting blown up and splintered and stuff, but look at those shockwaves. So cool. I guess I'm really shallow. All right, so of all the musicians who just straight up rip themselves off over and over, Hans Zimmer comes to mind with like the Pirates theme and the Gladiator theme, how they're like kind of the same. But my goodness, James Horner, so he's the one that did the soundtrack. He also did the soundtrack for Enemy at the Gates and Troy. And just listen to this. Tell me if you've heard this in any other movie right here. Listen to the music. Hear that? It's gonna do it again. It's like listen. Like that is in so many movies, like that exact thing, and it kind of takes me out of the movie because I'm like, oh, is that again? It's like, oh yeah, that's, because at first you can kind of know James Horner can kind of stay invisible and you can just have cool music that works with the world because it has been cool and original, but then he just drops that thing that he uses in so many movies and it's just super pulls me out of it. It's a good sounding bit of music. He just uses it a lot. Okay, so I just barely noticed something as I was watching the Colonel kick the door open and yell everyone to put their masks on, which the last time I didn't notice that he told them to put their masks on. I thought he just grabbed a rifle and goes charging out the door and hopes everyone will put their masks on. It's like, whoa. This is just James Cameron creating an absolute detailed production design perfection masterpiece. So I'm going to point out a few things here. Check this out. So he grabs a rifle and he's going to go out there and shoot them because they're trying to escape. He's going to kick the door open. He yells, masks. Okay. So first of all, that's just so perfect for his character. He just takes a big breath and holds his breath and goes out there. I do think it's cool that he yelled mask on. But look at this part. This is totally authentic military right here. So this girl, military person, I think, does the symbol for gas to put your gas mask on. She goes gas, 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 which is you have both your arms going like this. So watch her do it. Do you see that? I'll do it again. Okay, so she's in right about the middle of the screen, and she's yelling gas, gas, gas. But what she's doing with her arms is the signal, and I got really excited to see it. Here it is. Right there. That is some incredible attention to detail. Okay, in the special features, they were talking about how everybody wants to be a part of a tribe, and they want to have a family, and they want to have a group, and talked about how the movie had such huge appeal. And I think this line right here I think a lot of people resonate with this line as well, where Sully's talking about standing up to the sky people. Specifically, he says this.
I will show the sky people that they cannot take whatever they want. And that this...
Anyway, so it's individuals standing up to individual bullies, but also a group of people standing up to a group of bullies. So I just think there's a lot of themes in this movie that are very universal, that a lot of people can relate to, and I think that line embodies some of those themes. Okay, this part is part of the preachiness of this movie, talking about he's going to talk about how he's like praying, I guess, by connecting his little thingy to the tree there. Which, by the way, that it kind of makes me nauseous to watch him do that. I don't know. Anyway, focus. So he's praying to the power on this planet, and he says, if Grace is with you, or whatever her name is, Sigourney Weaver, he says, look into her mind and see our planet. And listen to what he says.
If Grace is with you,
Yeah, Grace.
look into our memories. See the world we come from. There's no green there. They killed their mother.
Oh, okay. So just like the date on the computer was really cool exposition. That's some exposition as well. It's really preachy, but it really tells you where we're at 2154 AD, is that there's no green on the Earth. It's like, it'd have to be pretty extreme to not have any green on the Earth. But it's just like the movie Silent Running, where they're up in space with all the little tree bubbles, and when they're eating their food and they're talking about how there's no green on the Earth anymore. And so it's kind of a common sci-fi theme, is that we destroy our Earth, or WALL-E, actually, the movie WALL-E. We destroy our Earth and then we have to go find another one. And then the idea is we would be nicer to the other one, but usually the sci-fi theme is like, no, we're going to go ruin that one too. So anyway, I guess that's the same in this world, is the movie's trying to be preachy to make you take care of the world, which is, I think, a good message. Also, there's been time passing since they've been gathering all the tribes and stuff. So now he just has all kinds of like little beads and things, and his hair is different and braided. And so it's just kind of cool to see how his image changes as he's like fully in this world. All right, so same kind of thing. I love watching all the human machines doing all their destruction. Even though they're the bad guys, I still think they're so cool, and the design of them is so cool. But there was kind of an eye-rolling moment at this very end battle when the planet basically rises up, where all the animals coordinate and start animal attacking. It was a little bit eye-rolling, I'm not going to lie, but it's kind of like Deus Ex Machina. It's like destroying the control ship and all the battle droids dying. It's like getting the Ghost Army in... So destroying the command ship in Star Wars Episode 1. It's like getting all the Ghost Army in Return of the King, and just like, it's like the battle's been going on long enough or too long, and then they're just like, okay, how do we write ourselves out of this battle really quick? We got to just end this battle. And so it's like, okay, then all the creatures on the whole planet just attack, and then it's over. And it's like, okay, it's a little cheesy, but I mean, it's very thematic with the movie, where he stuck his little hair. I was going to call it something anatomical, but that probably wouldn't be good. Anyway, he stuck his little hair thing in the tree and said a prayer, and now all the animals are attacking. So it works thematically. It just a little bit eye rolly, like I said, kind of Deus Ex Machina, a little rushing the end kind of. So there's two new special features that are new to this set. It's Memories from Avatar and Avatar: A Look Back. A Look Back is about 10 minutes, and Memories from Avatar is about 20 minutes. And then it has the old special features from the Super Duper set, but it's actually missing quite a bit of it. But I would say that the new special features are good. Like I said, it's only about 30 minutes, but it was good content. But it's not like, oh, you have to buy this set to get those. Like I just got bit in the head. Holy crap. They were good. I wasn't blown away by them, but I was glad I watched them. I'm never going to watch them again, because now at this point I'm more interested in seeing the people's thoughts as they go forward and make new movies. So it was cool to watch 30 minutes of like looking back, but so I wouldn't make or break your purchase of this movie on the new special features like at all. I think this movie is worth buying for the 4K up conversion, and then especially the HDR color grading, because it looked absolutely phenomenal. And then the Dolby Atmos track, if you turn it up louder than you're used to, was also quite incredible. All right, so this movie was outstanding on 4K. It's still not like a mind-blowing movie by any means. Like, it's still not my favorite movie. I'm really glad I went and revisited, and I think I will enjoy showing it to my kids with the family language audio option. I'm actually really excited for the second one. I hear it's really good. I totally just blind bought it on 4K again, because I'm excited to see it. I heard lots of good stuff. I didn't want to watch it on the Disney Plus stream because I wanted to watch it on 4K because it's going to be better. Even though the Disney Plus has Dolby Vision and this only has HDR10, I would much rather watch it on a disc with a higher bit rate and without stupid like data throttling or digital artifacts or anyway. So the disc is going to be the best way to watch it. So I'm going to watch this and review this next. So let me know what you thought of the review. If you would like to do more reviews like this with me, this is roughly how they go, then please push the button. Like it if you liked it. If you didn't like it, push the don't like it button. However, I don't imagine you would have made it this far if you didn't like it, but push one of them. So join me if you want to come with me on the next one. So we'll see you later. Bye.